So for whatever reason, the beginner runner and the powerlifter and the stay-at-home parent all get told 1 gram per pound of body weight in terms of protein requirements. I feel like that's giving the same prescription to 3 completely different patients. What research actually shows us is that the optimal, and I put that in quotations, the optimal protein intake is actually a bit of a moving target, and it's shaped by at least 4 different major variables. We've got your training age, which is how long you have been seriously committed to training for. We've got your training type. Your training type is strength versus endurance versus hybrid. Okay, so we've got these different training types for the purposes of this video today. We've also got your body fat percentage. And then lastly, we have your caloric context. Are you trying to maintain? Are you trying to be in a caloric deficit? Are you eating at maintenance? Are you eating in a surplus? All of these 4 different variables do impact what the quote-unquote optimal protein intake is going to be for you at a given time. So today we're going to calculate yours. You need a pen and paper, and then to actually please follow along this very short video, please give it your full attention. Please watch the whole thing because there are a couple of key nuances that will shape your result. And most importantly, you need to understand the why behind all of these factors and that I'm not just like making shit up, okay? If it's your first time here, my name is Ash. I am a certified strength and conditioning specialist of 8 years, and I help clients and athletes with their body recomposition goals. Oh, and if you already know what your protein requirements are and you need some help with adjusting it, you can click on the other video in the link below. So section number 1, let's talk about training age. So training age, we're gonna consider 0 to 18 months a beginner. Okay. So if you are new to consistent training, if you just started a new workout program on like a training app or anything like that, your body is in a very uniquely responsive state. Researchers will colloquially refer to this as like a newbie gains window, where basically the muscle protein synthesis is elevated almost constantly from the novelty of physical stress, right? And it's important that that physical stress is progressively overloaded. It just means that you probably don't need nearly as much protein as you think. So there have been a couple of studies on untrained, completely untrained individuals that show solid muscular gains at protein intakes as low as 1.2 to 1.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. Going higher won't hurt you, but the extra benefit is pretty minimal at this stage. So my practical target for beginner lifters is anywhere from 1.5 to 1.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day. That is your total body weight, okay? Now, a specific note for beginner runners. So running culture has always been pretty carb-centric, at least historically so. So new runners tend to undereat protein by default. Even though your requirement is relatively lower, your risk of undereating protein is higher because your legs are taking on repeated stress that they hadn't experienced before. Connective tissue, your tendons and your ligaments, lags behind your cardiovascular fitness development, and collagen synthesis, which is what helps you with that tendon and ligament health, is also protein dependent. Some beginners will also lose weight unintentionally as their mileage creeps up, which sometimes can put them in an accidental caloric deficit, which then begets muscle loss over time. So my practical target for beginner runners is anywhere between 1.4 to 1.6 grams per kilogram of body weight. I would also say that very important for runners is to not have so much protein that it displaces your calories that could be allotted towards carbs, because carbohydrate intake is pretty important for performance when it comes to distance running. And then we have our intermediate trainees. What is intermediate? I would say anywhere between 18 months to 6 years. And I understand that this is a very wide range. The reason why it's such a wide range is because anecdotally, some people will train for years in a very comfortable, non-challenging way before they ever experience what like truly hard, sometimes effective training feels like. That's normal. I personally think that the label matters a little bit less than just being honest with yourself. You do fall under this intermediate range, then this is where your protein requirements will actually increase. So a 2020 meta-analysis found that the break-even point for muscle gain in trained individuals sits around 1.6 grams per kilogram, but with significant individual variance. So at this stage, in this intermediate stage, you are more likely to be deliberately manipulating body composition. So that means like, running dedicated bulks, running dedicated cuts, and all of that context will also matter for your protein target. And we're gonna be talking about that a little bit later as well, okay? So my practical target for these intermediate trainees is anywhere between 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. I'm gonna put this here, 1.6 to 2 grams per kilogram of body weight. If you are going to be in a caloric deficit, which again, we'll talk about at some point, you're gonna be nudging towards the greater end of this range, okay? If you've been training for 6+ years and you've had dedicated periodized plans where you have gained substantial amounts of muscle mass, or you have gained substantial amounts of cardiovascular fitness, you're doing 30+ miles per week, you're doing sprints every now and then, you're doing like extremely intentional, deliberate training programs, then your protein requirements are definitely going to be on the higher end of that spectrum. For you guys, I would say someone like myself, 1.8 to 2.4 grams per kilogram of body weight. Now, where you are on this spectrum is going to depend heavily on your body composition, because there are going to be periods of time where you store more body fat than others, whether intentionally or not. And when you do have all of that extra body fat, your body has energy to pull from, and it's gonna help you maintain and grow new muscle mass if that's your goal. Also, obviously, given that you have more muscle mass and you have higher training demands, you do need relatively more protein than you were previously intaking. Okay, I know that was a lot of information already, so now we're gonna crunch some numbers specifically for you, okay? So we're gonna base this off of everything we just talked about, and then also your current body fat percentage. Step 1, I need you to click on the link below to open up the body fat percentage visual guide. There is one for men, and then there's also one for women. Based on the images that you see, I want you to choose the one that you believe looks closest to you. Do not overthink this, just be honest with yourself, just pick one number, and we're gonna roll with that number for the rest of this exercise. You can pause the video while you choose. Step number 2, I want you to take that percentage and plug it into this equation to calculate your lean body mass, your LBM. So lean body mass equals your total body weight times, parentheses, 1 minus your body fat percentage. As an example, a 132-pound person at 22% body fat would be LBM equals 132 times 1 minus 22, which is 132 times 0.78, which gives approximately 103 pounds of lean body mass. Just to really drill this in, it does not have to be perfect to work, it just needs to be an estimate. Step number 3, you are going to apply your training age multiplier. So take a look at this chart right here, see whether you fall under the beginner category, the intermediate category, or the advanced category, and you're going to choose that numerical range for yourself. And I want you to calculate the lower end and also the higher end of that number. So now you have a nice little range for yourself. Step number 4, you're gonna adjust for your training type. So for strength training, you're gonna use the middle to upper end of this range. For endurance training, you can subtract 0.1 grams per pound from your range. And for hybrid training, again, I want you to use the upper half of your range. Step number 5, we're gonna be adjusting for your caloric context, right? So this was that 4th variable that we talked about earlier. If you are bulking or in a caloric surplus, you are going to use the lower half of protein range so that you can allow for extra carbs and extra fats to help you gain weight. If you're maintenance, you're gonna be in the middle of that range, and if you're in a cut or a caloric deficit, you're going to use the higher end of that range. Okay, so let's run through the full example. 132-pound person, 22% body fat is approximately 103 pounds of lean body mass. Let's say that this person is an advanced hybrid athlete who is at maintenance. So they're gonna be using that middle of the range, 0.95 grams per pound of lean body mass. This comes out to about 98 grams of protein per day. That's a pretty solid amount of protein for a 132-pound person. We can go ahead and take that number and round it to 100 and just make it easy to remember. So we can say that this person actually requires anywhere between 95 grams to 105 grams per day. That's notably less than that 1 gram per pound of total body weight prescription, which would have put her at 130 grams per day. The difference is about 30 grams, and that's like a whole meal's worth of protein for many people. And if you're wondering, well, why would she want less protein? Doesn't she want maximal muscle and tissue repair? Doesn't she want to grow as much muscle mass as humanly possible? Well, she does, but not if the calories allotted to protein are displacing the much needed carbs and fats for her training. Without those carbs and fats, especially as a distance runner, her training, her sleep, and her overall mood will all be negatively impacted. So if she ends up eating 130 grams of protein, she's probably too full to consume anything else given how satiating protein is as a macro. And if she force feeds herself additional calories of carbs and fats on top of 130 grams of protein, and then she's just in a caloric surplus, well, now she's just uncomfortably full and putting on body weight that she doesn't really want to at this moment in time. Again, I understand that that was a lot of information. Let's try not to make yourself miserable with all this stuff. The goal of this kind of nuance isn't to create new anxiety, but rather to let you know that you actually have a pretty flexible range, and that range is always going to change from time to time. Just find your number, round to the nearest 5 grams, and build 2 or 3 meals around it, and just reliably hit that number. That's basically the entire system. You don't need to weigh your chicken to the gram. You don't need to spiral when like a travel day throws off your intake by 10 grams. Your body operates on weekly averages and not daily perfection. So that means that a rough target hit consistently over months is always going to outperform a precise target followed like neurotically for 2 weeks before you end up burning out. Okay? If you found this useful, please consider subscribing so that I can continue to put out free content. And if you want to leave a comment for the algorithm, I would also really appreciate that. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I promise I will read them and respond to as many as possible. I will see you guys in the next one.